Mark Making Collage Part 4.
Okay, so for this next one, I'm going to use the sponge. It's the sponge that I cut out. I've decided to use some browned paper that I got on the back of an envelope with something that arrived in the post, and I'm going to use quite a lot of water on the paint that I've got, because I really do want quite a loose amount of paint. Again, it doesn't really matter what kind of paint, poster paint, acrylic. I've got watercolour here, but if you don't have that, or you have it in those little tabs, don't worry about it. And I'm going to dab it in, making sure I've covered most of the sponge, but I don't really want it seeping too far in. I don't know if you can see that. And then I'm just going to start matching up my print. So here I go. I'm not pressing too hard, quite bouncy. I think I can get a couple out of each. Here we go. I'm going to come down for a second row. Oh yeah, I can get quite a lot actually from just that one application of paint. And I'm getting quite a bit of texture as well as the pattern. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to go back in for my paint again. Okay. Back in on the paint, and then back to my design. And I'm going to perhaps try and line it up. I think what works really well with this is when you do keep a continuous pattern moving. Okay, so I'm going to fit most of this. Okay, so there we are. That's that print, but it's not actually finished. I'm going to need to let it dry, and when it's dry I'm going to come back over with a second colour with a completely different texture on top, and I think that's going to give it some real depth. So let's move back now to a dry media and work with a completely different texture. Okay, so this time I've got a piece of white paper and then this brown envelope, the other half of the brown envelope that I painted on before. And I'm just going to lay the piece of white paper over any kind of white paper, just doesn't matter, or any paper at all actually, to be fair. And I'm going to take a pen and I'm going to use this as a guide. So all that's going to happen is I'm going to flick off over the white and over the brown in the same direction. Then I'm going to move the white paper, and you can see that I've ended up with a really lovely line here. Go back over, off I go again. You're not going in the same direction, but it looks like you've used a ruler, to be fair. Okay, so I'm going to finish this off in this direction, and then I'm going to turn the paper over in another direction. This white paper is kind of rubbish, we don't really need that, but we're just going to keep moving that along. Okay, so you can now see that I fill up about half of the page, and what I'm going to do now is go in with another felt pen or a crayon or pencil, and I'm just going to start putting some geometric shapes into this. So I've decided I'm going to go with some triangles. Try and keep the same shape whatever you choose, but I'm going to have them all going in the same direction, but I'm not going to have them all directly in line with each other. I don't want that sense of geometry about it, just quite a strong shape coming off this line. Okay, you don't want masses close together, but you just want them so they kind of intersect across the page. So I did just to add a little bit more into this, that I'm going to add some kind of long lines. Again, no rhyme nor reason necessarily to where I'm placing these. I'm just using my eye to get a sense of kind of downward motion, I suppose, really, with my pen. Okay, honestly, these designs and patterns I am making up as I go along. I bet you're going to come up with a load more interesting kind of designs. I feel that's kind of okay. I'm quite happy with that as it stands. There isn't a right place for anything, but I'm quite happy with that as a texture right now. If we have a look then at all the textures I've put together so far, this is how it's looking. So we have the first kind of page of textures
followed by the paint, which I'm waiting to dry now before we move on onto the brown paper, and the second set of textures there. We're building up quite a nice collection now. Have a go, come up with some others, and I'll show you what I've come up with in a minute.